All right. So, folks, if we are ready, let's kick it off. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to IEC Husaini's LinkedIn and Career Growth Seminar. This is part of the series that was started with IEC Husaini's initiative for technical training program that was launched that a lot of you took advantage of earlier. It was started back in February 1st through March 14. It was a professional training program which included Microsoft Collaboration Suite, fundamentals of AI. We also offered a class for web application development using Node.js. We also had a track for introducing cybersecurity operations, as well as agile project management using Scrum. Uh, so these initiatives at IEC Husseini has been going on for a number of years, almost a decade. But ever since COVID started, pandemic, and everyone was not pretty much everyone was stuck at home. We took this initiative and we went and started this program online. We were like, let's take advantage. And as a result of these last 3 years of these training programs, we saw individuals joining from Pakistan, India, many different countries, of course, all over North America for sure. So today's session, first of all, I apologize. We were a little delayed due to a technical challenges, but with us, I have Adil Hassan and Sister Tazeen Raza, who both of you I'd like to thank and hand over the baton to get the program started. For all of you who are here to take advantage and listen in on this career growth program, we are going to probably shift the timing a little bit and go right around maybe 6:15, 6:20 mark, as long as Adil and Tazeen, that works with your time frame and schedule, and the rest of you. But anybody that's online, you can get in touch with Sister Tazeen or any one of us to help address any other questions later on. But without a further delay, Adil, first of all, I'd like to hand it over to you as our co-host today. Thank you for taking this on. Take it away, man.
Awesome. Thank you, Abir. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the seminar. Everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Thumbs up. Great. So, very excited to have Sister Tazeen Raza with us. I think it's a perfect way to end a busy week for all of us. So happy Friday. I think I'm personally looking forward to this session. Just quick intro on myself before I hand it over to Sister Tazeen is my name is Adil Hassan. I've been in the Chicago community for many years. I am a strategy director at KPMG. And I acknowledge I haven't been in the job market for 7 years. And I think there's a lot of changes that happen in the job market with the growth in LinkedIn and all of these different resources. So I personally am actually looking very forward to this session. And I'm hoping that everybody else can kind of chime in, given how critical this is for folks that are in different stages of professional life. So we'll like Abir said, we'll go a little bit till 6:15. We'll leave 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. Please feel free to use the chat feature within Zoom to send us your questions. I think that way it will become a more collaborative session, and I'm sure Sister Tazeen will probably appreciate that. So we'll use that. We'll use the chat feature to do that. And with that, I think Sister Tazeen, I'll hand it over to you, and I'll bring the screen share up.
Perfect. And did you, in terms of the chat, as we're going through the slides, if there are questions that come up that are related to the slides that we're going into, we can bring those up right away, so that way we don't have to really wait for the end for that. So Perfect. Just a little bit about me. I am a HR professional who I've been in HR for over 6-7 years now. I'm currently working with Indeed as a resume reviewer. So I kind of have a lot of information that I really wanted to share with our community. And we kind of built this guide on how to find a job 101, because we really wanted to do from one point to the next to really help people when you don't know where to get started, when you don't know where to go. And I really wanted to take it from A to Z, just going through the resume, LinkedIn, all the processes that really kind of began with that. So we can go in, Adil, to the first slide.
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
So Sister Tazeen Reza, just
Yes.
wanted to understand, you're in New York, right?
That's correct, yes.
And
I'm not part of your community.
Yeah. So what sort of trends are you seeing from working at Indeed and doing resume reviews? I know some of those points you are going to highlight and talk about later on too, but can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, so I mean, the first step really is to go into which industries are working well right now. So in that, it really helps us explore the US labor market. So here you'll see these are the industries right now that are thriving. And this is as of February of this year. So it has into account those Meta layoffs. It has into account banking layoffs, all of those things that we saw at the early of this year. So it really is important to understand where are the jobs right now and where should we be looking, because you don't want to look place in a needle in a haystack and look for something that the industry is not thriving. A lot of positions you can find in various industries, and a lot of people have skills that are transferable. So it really is critical to take a look and see where are those jobs right now. So this chart will really help kind of show that. So here you'll see the first one. It's the leisure and hospitality.
Hospitality. Yep.
Yep. And then the second is education and health services, of course. And then the third is professional business services. So, you know, that could be a variety of different things on that end. And government, you'll see, is right below that. But everything else you see is kind of really staggered down. But those four areas are really the areas of growth in terms of industry. We can go to the next slide.
Yeah, and as I move on, Sister Tazeen, I thought it was interesting to see that the employment change by industry data, leisure and hospitality was one. I'm assuming part of that is driven by us coming out of the COVID era and kind of some of those trends kind of coming back. How do you see that changing? Yeah.
Think about all of the people who lost their jobs, right? In COVID. Now the industry is so, they really want to hire people very quickly. Even if you go, walk down the street here, obviously I live in New York City. So I walk down the street here, you can see storefronts, and I'm talking mom and pop shops. I'm talking, any stores, even Target, for example, which is across the street from me. They're just really wanting to pull in those people right away. Those are the places that are hiring, because these are all the people that didn't have jobs. And now everybody's tired of COVID. They want to get out, but you go to restaurants and how many people are there to serve you? It's a big shortage. So they're really trying to entice those people into coming back. And people that worked at hotels, they want people, now they're having an influx of people. Like, just look at the travel that's happening. Where are all those people going? They have to go into some hotels. So that's really pulling that industry there.
Got it. Super helpful. Okay, I'm gonna move on.
So a lot of people have, asked, where do we look for jobs? What are credible places? So one of those places is not Craigslist. Do not look for jobs on Craigslist. I know that a few years ago they did have credible places. Good try, Adil. Nice try on that one. But next time, the most credible places to really look is Indeed and LinkedIn. And just to give a statistic out there, 87% of recruiters are using LinkedIn to vet candidates. So if you're not on LinkedIn, that's 87% you are losing right away. Boom. So most jobs are actually found there. You know, not just recruiters, it's also a variety of different places, you know, even people who are hiring managers. As soon as you apply, the first thing that they're going to do is pull up your LinkedIn. So it really becomes critical to have not just a LinkedIn, but a good one. So there are a lot of scams going on right now. And anytime that there's a recession, there always is a variety of different scams. And these are one of the things that I've come across myself. And it's important to mention this to our community, that you should never have to pay to get a job. And they can make this look like a lot of different ways. And one of the scams that I've seen is they'll say, oh, if you want to get your resume done here, and then we will go ahead and place you into this job. That's a scam. And it really makes you think. Like, I'm an HR professional, and it made me think. I'm like, okay. But anytime you have to give something up front, you should automatically trigger in your mind, hey, this is not what it's supposed to look like. So, you know, and ZipRecruiter is another one that kind of has a lot of, people have found jobs on there, but there's a lot of sales on there. And they do sell some of your information, and people will call you. So I really don't recommend ZipRecruiter anyways. So.
Yeah, the 85% metric was pretty staggering. I actually had no idea that was the case. It actually sheds light on how you want to allocate resources on building your profile, right? Like if 85% of your is LinkedIn, that makes, talk to us a little bit about maybe leveraging your network and how you kind of strengthen your case.
We'll definitely get into that when we get to our LinkedIn page.
Okay, perfect.
Let's go to the next one.
Okay.
So step one is to build your resume, right? The first thing that you want to do, and this is where people make a lot of mistakes, and I've seen this with Indeed, I've seen this with people who've come to myself, getting a format that's not ATS readable, which is the applicant tracking system, that really becomes a problem. And think about, if this resume looks fancy and pretty, don't use it. No. Text boxes, shapes, tables, columns, graphics, unusual fonts, all of these things are going to cause parsing errors, every single one. And the way it looks on the back end, just to give you an idea of what that looks like, it takes your information, and let's say you're trying to have your education, right? It jumbles it up and puts it in different places, so it really becomes unreadable. You can't make one thing out from the other, and it really is a useless mess, basically. So it's really important that when you're looking at ATS readable formats, don't use the ones that are on Google. Sometimes those do also cause problems. Like, you know, when you use Google, that it's like live or whatever, you don't have to save anything or whatever. That, I would not recommend using that. But, you know, Word formats are fine. Obviously, when you're applying to positions, you do want to use it as a PDF format, because that means that anything that you put in there, it doesn't change. So that really becomes important on that. The four main core sections in the ATS scan is summary, work experience, education, and skills. So you really want to make sure that you're completing those four sections to its entirety. Anything that's beyond that, volunteer, you know, top skills, well, that goes in skills, never mind. So anything else that's beyond those four skills does not get parsed. Yes, when it gets to a person, it might show up on the one that they printed out for you when you're having that discussion. But when it goes to the back end, nothing beyond those four core sections gets parsed. So it's really important to not waste your time on anything else, basically. That's beyond that. So one thing I wanted to mention on this is that make sure that when you do apply for the jobs that you're applying for, track it somehow. So, date of application, company, position, did you get an interview? What stage did you get at? Because it really helps to paint that picture to see, hey, what's happening here? Am I even getting calls back? If you're not getting a response, chances are that there's something wrong with your resume, right? And in that, we definitely want to make sure that we're using the right keywords for every job that we're looking for. So your job for administrative assistant and your job for, clerical, accounting something will be very different because the keywords on those job descriptions are what's driving that ATS format. So the best way I really tell people on how to kind of figure out what those keywords are, really read that job description and see what's popping up over and over again. And those are your keywords that you want to make sure you're including. So once you see that you're adding more of those keywords and as you're tailoring your resume to those jobs, you'll start to see more of a response because, again, it doesn't go to a person right away. It goes through the applicant tracking system and it makes your information and your keywords searchable. So it's often automated and that's how they find candidates. So we really want to make sure we're including as many of those words as possible into our resume and what we've done in our details.
I have a question or a comment. I think it sounds. I was talking to someone today, Sister Tazeen, and we were talking about this individual was looking in a couple of different directions, project management types of roles, as well as some more technical roles as well, because he was interested and he had done both of those kind of roles. So it's fair to assume that would you say that he would be making 2 or 3 or 4 different resumes, maybe even resumes tailored to different positions that he's applying to in different companies?
Yeah, it really becomes, so if he's doing a project management position versus a program manager position, these vary a little bit, but they do vary. And the wording will be very different. So it really is important that, let's say if somebody's applying to 5 different titles, because it goes mostly by titles and similar titles. So if they're applying to 5 different titles, chances are they're going to need 5 different resumes. And it won't be exactly like completely different night and day. It really comes down to the verbiage that you're using. So you can use one resume to create another one because sometimes they are similar. There's just a small amount of words that might be different. So they definitely would use different resumes. And then that becomes part of the tracking. You want to make sure that you're tracking which resume you use to apply to which job, because you don't want to show up at an interview and be like, oh, this is my resume and that's the wrong one. So it really becomes critical to make that note.
Yeah, and I'll follow with a separate question, Tazeen. You talked about kind of like the 4 core sections, the summary, the work experience, education, and skills. I know personally, I haven't revisited my resume in a few years, but when I was active in the job market, one of the big things for me was how to frame my bullets. That to me was like the hardest part, right? And I got a bunch of different advice. Hey, you want to talk about impact, you want to show not just exactly what you did, but what you did, how it impacted the company and the value you delivered. So could you speak a little bit about that part? I know I'm kind of double clicking and maybe I'm jumping ahead. Let me know if I am.
No, you're exactly on the money on that. Exactly right. So the best way to really build out your bullets and what you're saying is exactly true. You want to do what's called an accomplishment-based bullet. So that's what did you do? How did you do it? And what was the outcome? We don't really care what you did exactly. I can pull that up in the job description. I want to know what you did with it. But when you're putting it, framing it in that format, what we call it the who method. When you're framing it in that format, it really helps to show the impact that you made. And that's what they call an accomplishment-based bullet. So, you know, in your most recent job, you should say maybe 5 to 8 bullets is really a good number. And then your older positions, 3 to 5 bullets is really what we're looking for, because those accomplishment-based bullets are so meaty that you don't really need that much information. And in terms of what we're looking for, how many words on your resume, 500 to 700 words maximum. You do not want any more information than that, because that really becomes cumbersome to read. And frankly, I will not read it. I will give up in the first, after the summary, I'm over. You know, a recruiter has 20 seconds after ATS scans it to read and see if this is a person that they're interested in. And you don't want them to just say, oh no, this guy's talking too much. Leave a little bit. The idea is to make yourself qualified enough that they're interested in bringing you in. This guy looks great. Okay, let's bring him in. It looks like he could be a match for us. And then you have that opportunity to talk about some of the things that are not on your resume. So that is a question that sometimes is asked. Can you tell us something that's not on your resume? And that's your opportunity to really write down all of those things that you would want to bring up in an interview, because that's something interesting, right? I already have your resume. What else can you tell me?
Super helpful.
That's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just going to have one more before we move on, just because we're on this topic, which I think will be helpful for folks. When you think about the sections, summary, work experience, educate, is that the general flow you think in, or does that change based on what stage of career you are? And I remember when I was coming out of undergrad, my education was on top, and I've been out of undergrad a long time. The objective used to be a thing back then. Like people would have like these objective statements and those type of things. Could you speak a little bit about like the flow?
That's a great question. So objective is really for somebody who's coming out of college. That's right. But as you're into your career, okay, you're 5 years in, you're 10 years in, whatever. That's what the summary section is for. But summary also shouldn't be too cumbersome. Again, I'm lazy as a recruiter. I don't want to read all that. So, 2 to 3 sentences, and really talk about what are your top skills, what do you bring to the table, and what you're looking for in your next few roles. That's it. Move on. In terms of what the flow should look like, I am very picky on how I like to see it, but people do it in many different ways. It should really be based, if you just graduated, obviously education has to be right under summary, but summary should be the first thing. But if you do have a lot of experience, I would say if you graduated 5 years ago or more, move that education down. So then it would be in this exact order: summary, work experience, education, skills last. And skills, we really want to have about 8 to 10 skills. Again, don't make it cumbersome. Don't put your skills, everything that you've ever done. No, think about what you're looking to do in your next role after that. And really align yourself with those positions and those roles, and think about what skills are needed there. And those are the skills that you're going to put, those 8 to 10 skills.
Super helpful. Thank you.
So LinkedIn, your favorite of you. So LinkedIn is the first place that recruiters are going to go when they get your resume. So it's really important to remember this is not Facebook. Okay. You cannot understand the amount of times that I've seen people have pictures with their kids or pictures with their dog, or I don't know, just no, this needs to be a professional picture. And in the documents that we're going to give to people who've joined this seminar at the end as our parting gift to you, we have a document that I've made that really is very specific and aligns with how to take a good picture. One of the other things that I want to mention is that a lot of people say, oh, I don't know how to smile, or I'm not really a smiley person. I'm going to need you to fake it. because nobody wants to work with somebody who has that face. Again, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Why can't you just fake it for this one picture? Nobody is telling you that you have to be smiling like this all day. Just for, it's an impact, and it makes such a big difference. And people don't realize what kind of impact that really does make. The other thing I wanted to mention is a lot of our community members are weary about using pictures, especially some of our ladies that don't want to put their pictures on there because they do hijab. I really think that if somebody doesn't want to hire you because you're wearing hijab, you don't want to be at that place anyways. And more often than not, Abir can chime in on this one. People do want to hire people who are diverse and people who do, are very different. So it really will work in your favor most of the time if you do, have your picture on there and do get called in for an interview. Rather than working on the other end and saying that, hey, I'm not getting called in because I wear hijab.
I wanna chime in. Yeah, this is a great point. Something that I personally very strongly feel about this, that we should be proud of our identity. We should be proud of our values, and there is just know that if an organization who values diversity and inclusion, and many organizations at this time are just valuing everybody's values, no matter what they look like. I think we just need to own that. And I correct me if I'm wrong. I think if you have a beard, you're wearing a hijab, or you like eating biryani, or you're a Noahan, I like talking about all of that, because that's what stands you out, right, from the crowd. That's what's the value and the diversity that you're bringing to the table. And I've seen pretty much all organizations I've worked at that this is what sets you apart. This is what people remembers you for.
Definitely. And I think to that end, in the summary section, think about all the people that you're going to be going up against. You're really going to be going up against people who have the same experiences as you, right? They have the same similar education or something of that nature. So what really makes you stand out when it comes to your LinkedIn is your summary section. That's your chance to talk about you as a person. Why did you start doing this kind of role? What made you interested? Why did you go to school for this? This is all about personality, and to make yourself stand out. And obviously, I'm not saying that say your life story on there. No, I'm talking about professionally. There is something that drove you to do what you do, and why do you love it so much? What if you've been doing it for 10 years? Tell me why you're engaged in this for all this time. What skills have you developed? Where are you looking to go in your next role? I want to see that in that summary section, because that tells me a little bit about your personality. And I want to see that on that section. And to your point, Abir, I would definitely say that, when people are afraid that, I don't want to put my profile picture on there because I don't know that I'll be, biased against because I'm wearing hijab or I have a beard or whatever. I think that 9 times out of 10, it does work out for you, that people do want people who are diverse. And obviously there are nuances and there are companies that are not interested in that, but you don't want to work there anyway. Who wants to be miserable every day at your job because you wear hijab? I don't. So
yeah, that's a great point. You're talking about the summary section. That was my favorite bullet on this page. I know, speaking from experience, like the LinkedIn profiles can be pretty detailed, but that summary section really tells me very quickly what this candidate is all about. And I actually did not have a summary section for the longest time.
Oh gosh.
But I've spent time writing that one much more, and I think I'm pretty sure the hit rate on some kind of recruiters reaching out to me has gone up, and I think it's because of that. Could you speak a little bit about maybe some of the individual sections.
So
I know
I was
something.
wondering if we can actually pull up Abir's profile.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
But to your point, when you're saying that a lot of recruiters are reaching out to you, it's those skills that you have on there. Because remember, you can put 50 skills, and some of those really specific skills that are needed, that's what recruiters use to find you. So it really is important to put all 50 in there that you would use. So let's just go quickly through Abir's profile, because I really, I looked at his before we did this session, and I told him that I would do it live and let him know what he needs to change on there. But you can see here that he has a banner. He has a great picture. He's smiling there. This is a person that you want to work with because he looks pleasant. He's not standing there showing all, 20 teeth of his right in front. Nobody's saying all that, but he looks pleasant. And that's really what you want to show there. What I love is that he has a banner there that is specifically created for him. It really shows a full, complete profile, and that's really what you're looking for. He has more than 500 connections. Obviously, you can get there. Can we go down and see his summary section? Let's take a look at how that goes. So he has, he's been active. That's great. So in the about section here, you can see, so there are different ways that people write it out. So he's written his in, first person. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. A lot of people want to write it different. They say, they don't use any pronouns in their, it really is about style. You can do it any way you want because this is about you. He has put all of his information there. It's not overdone where you don't want to read it. This is exactly the right amount that you want to be. And this one part that is redundant is the 18 years of experience and 15 years highly technical. I would definitely take that out because we can see how much years of experience you have. I'm going to see that right away. And even when you apply through the applicant tracking system, that's the first thing that pops up, your years in industry. So it's really redundant. You don't have to put it there. He could take it out. Okay, let's go down to experience. So a lot of people, what they do is take their resume and post it on here. And that's not what we're doing. So you really want to think about your top 3 things that you made impact on that one position. And that is what you're putting there. Key accomplishments. That's it. 3 for each job. A lot of times people don't know about certain companies. So a little blurb about the company is fine. Like Microsoft has been in business since blah, blah, blah. 2 sentences about the company, and then go to your accomplishments. So that's really how I suggest people to build out their experience section. Let's see how many skills he has. Good education, great. Keep going down. So he has all 50 skills in there. Excellent. Why leave out anything? You got to have maximized all the 50 skills. And sometimes, you have older skills that you might not need for your new position. And that's fine. You can go and take those out and then add newer ones. Oh, I got this certification. Oh, I got this. Go back and edit it. That's more than fine to do that. And as you're starting to type these in, different ones will populate and be like, oh, actually, yeah, I'll use that. Oh, yeah. So it really, as you start to populate some of these sections and the skills, it really helps you trigger other things that you might be doing. So Abir, I would say 9 out of 10 on this.
No, thank you. Thank you, Tazeen. Sister Tazeen, here are a couple of things that I want to add. Based on my experience and my understanding, the algorithm on LinkedIn actually recognizes your amount of activity. I personally do open up my LinkedIn very frequently, every day. Mm-hmm. This has been my practice for the last 10 years. I highly encourage kids that are even in high school to make their LinkedIn profile. Don't wait till the last moment. Start adding people that you are interacting with, whether they are in the community, whether you work with them, even mm-hmm. in a single meeting even, because you just met with somebody and you may not meet with that person ever again, but add them. People value those connections, and that's one way for them and for yourself to remember that, oh yeah, I remember this individual that I worked with. And the skills also, the more you interact with other people's skill endorsement, I feel that the algorithm also puts your skill set out there for others to comment or respond on that. These are just some learnings.
Definitely, all true, all very true. And the other thing is, in terms of making connections, you would be surprised when I tell you the amount of people that have gotten jobs that they were barely qualified for, right? But they had a connection. They had a referral, a friend of a friend. Oh yeah, can you recommend me for this position? Oh, absolutely. I don't even know this guy, but I'm going to recommend him because my friend said that he's a great guy and, you know, he's qualified for this. So that automatically puts you at the top of the pile. So as you're making these connections and as you're starting to meet people that you might, know in the community, from this community to a different community, we are a mighty bunch. And, the only way that we can move forward as a community is by helping each other. So if we can recommend somebody for a job or recommend somebody, that's the only way we're going to move forward. So, as you're making those connections, I just started LinkedIn, so I don't really know that many people. Start with 10. That 10 will turn into 20, 30. Really will move very quickly from that. And these connections are how people are getting hired now. 100%.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. Our company, as like many others, given the state of the market, had a recent layoff, and a lot of the folks that were impacted were students that had just graduated from MBA schools, and a lot of them were able to get back into the market and use LinkedIn. A lot of them had status updates where they reached out through LinkedIn. So I wholeheartedly endorse that statement because I've seen it, happen live in front of me. The power of the network that LinkedIn provides you and other platforms like that is, it's really tenfold, and it's a great tool, especially nowadays, to use and leverage that as you look for your next opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't matter if you have a little bit of people or you have a lot of people. Everybody started somewhere. So don't let that be a hindrance for you that, I've never used LinkedIn and like, how do I do it? You'll teach yourself. There are so many different ways to kind of learn that and super quickly. So don't feel like, I never used it. It's too late for me. It's never too late. People have reinvented themselves at 50, at 60, and are happy with the changes that they've made and the classes that they've done to excel themselves forward. I don't like this career anymore. I want to do something else. It's never too late. Never. People can really surprise you when you have that motivation to do it. Nothing can stop you. Okay, so this is really important. This is wholeheartedly my best slide. So my favorite one. Interviews and how to prepare. It is so easy, but people get really, they're really daunted by this task. The best thing that you can do is prepare yourself and research that company. What do they do? Have they been in the news? Have they had any new products? Have they had any negative media? Who was in this position last? Where are they now? Who will I be interviewing with? What did their career path look like? These are all things that will help you in the interview process. Like, let's say, for example, you're interviewing with somebody who was, alumni from UC Irvine. That's me. I'm the alumni. But, that's a point of talking with that person. Oh, yeah. So I see that you were at UC Irvine. One, they're going to be impressed that you researched everything and learned about them. Two, they're going to remember you at the end of interviewing 20 candidates. Hey, I like that person from UCI. They were really personable. you will stick out in their mind because you did all that research. You had a point to talk to them about something really specific. And, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, no, that's weird. Like, I don't want to be stalking people. Everyone stalks everyone. You can do it. This is how you are going to move forward. This is how you are going to be great at that interview, is by being ready and remembering the things that you want to ask. You know, and that is how you're going to make a connection with that interviewer. You have 30, 40 minutes to make that connection. How are you going to do that? So when somebody's done their homework, you can definitely tell in the interview process, right away. It really becomes evident that they know what they're talking about. They know what the company does. They have the right questions. They, you know, and when it comes to questions, it really is important not just to remember the technical ones, but also behavioral questions. And those are the questions that people hate, but I love, of course. Those are the questions that are like, you know, tell me about a time when you had to work with somebody and you were having a hard time because this person was difficult to work with. Let's be honest, everybody has had that time. It's happened to everybody. And it really doesn't show that you can't work with people, because if you didn't have that incident happen to you, then there's something wrong with you, right? Everybody has somebody that they don't get along with, and that's normal and that's fine. But what you did with it and how you got over that hump and how you were able to work with that person immediately after, or after you were able to resolve, or maybe you didn't even resolve, and that's more than fine. But how did you work with that person given that you didn't get along with the way that they wanted to do things or whatever? So the best way to really explain those behavioral questions is by using the STAR method, and that's situation, task, action, result. You really want to frame your questions using that, because what happens with a lot of people, they spend too much time explaining the situation. I don't care. No. You got to spend more time explaining the action and the result. I want to know what you did. Tell me about that. The action really should be the meat of what you're spending your time on. In terms of the situation, that should be quick. And I feel like in tech positions, this is when, so a lot of my clients are in tech. So I often see that they have trouble with the STAR method because they spend too much time explaining the situation. And obviously it's technical jargon, and we know that you know that, but spend more time on the action and the result, because that's really what's going to show that you know what the question entails. Don't get bogged down by just explaining the situation. And it really does become important to study those behavioral questions as well as the technical questions. But behavioral questions are really important because it really shows how well you're going to work with a team, you know, what you can do when you come up against an obstacle. All of these things are explained through behavioral questions.
Yeah, I can say when I was recruiting out of business school, STAR method was the method I lived and like died by. It was for every single accomplishment bullet on my resume. I had a backup page where I wrote situation, task, action, results. Sometimes people will skip the T and it becomes a STAR method. But either way, I think just that preparation is very helpful. And if you have written it down in paper, believe me, during an interview, it will not stump you.
Yeah.
Like you've prepared for it, you've written it down, like, you know, you have it done pretty well.
And it's your story, right? So you know your story really well, and it shows because you have already practiced all of this.
Absolutely. Just in the interest of time, because I do want to leave a little bit of time at the end for folks to ask any questions, Abir, if that's okay. So we'll move on to the last slide. Yep.
Okay, so final thoughts. Always send a thank you note one day after your interview, and talk about, you know, something that maybe you made a joke in the interview process. Remind them of that. Remind them of who you are and what you did and what you said in that interview. That's really what the thank you note is for, to be at the top of your mind. And you know, that thank you note can really make a difference, from oh, we're deciding between these two candidates, you're going to choose the one that was at the top of your mind. And then make sure to save those job descriptions, because sometimes they do disappear after a while. They take them down. Save them somewhere on your computer, make a file, project manager roles, program manager roles, and then the date that you applied it, and really relate it back to that Excel sheet that I was saying that you should keep track of your jobs that you've applied to, which resume you used, and all of that should be all related. And then, keep tracks of your jobs, and then make sure to align yourself with those job descriptions and skills and experiences, because that's really what's going to make you ultimately pass that ATS and be qualified for that position. And I can't stress this one enough. At the end of an interview, always ask a question, and you should have 3 to 4 questions ready in your mind before you even get to that interview. I want to know what questions you have, and then you should be ready to boom, 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 knock them out. If you don't ask questions at the end of an interview, it's considered a know-it-all. This person thinks they know everything. This person, it's associated with a behavioral issue. So let's knock that off right away. That's an easy win. Always ask questions, 1 to 2 questions. I always have 3 prepared. That's just my motto. And if 2 questions get answered in the interview, you have 1 still. 1 should be about the job, 1 should be about the company, and 1 can be, a freebie, your choice. So that's really how I tailor the questions that should be asked.
Yeah,
anybody want to add some final thoughts?
I'm glad you added the what type of question comment at the end there, because a lot of times people will focus on kind of administrative type of questions. Hey, what's the process look? And then those are all important questions, but I think the more thoughtful you can be on the type of questions that you're asking. I've had an opportunity to be on both sides of the table when it comes from an interview process. I think it just shows the interviewee or the interviewer that you've prepped, and that's what you stand for.
Absolutely.
So I think that's super helpful.
And if the company has been, in the news, or that's a great question to ask, or,
absolutely,
it shows that you're up with current events, what you're talking about. You're not just living your head in the sand, little robot. Nobody wants that. Times have changed. People are evolving. We're moving forward. And that's the way that you're going to show yourself that you're ahead of the curve. You've already thought these things through. So you were in the news for, XYZ. What's your response to that? And how did you feel when this news came out, or whatever? Really get them thinking. And even if they don't have an answer for you, that's fine. They'll be like, oh, actually, I don't really know. Let me get back to you. That's great. You made them think, and one of the questions that you can ask is, I'm really excited about this position. And can you just let me know when I'm going to hear back? I just really want to know. It doesn't hurt to ask that. Ask that question. Be aggressive. It's fine. You can ask, and if they say, oh, we don't know, we're really taking it easy, then there's your answer. Don't expect to hear from them for some time. At least you're not sitting there waiting and, oh, did I get ghosted? So, those are the important questions to be asked.
That's great. Some questions in the chat, Adil, have you reviewed them? And you want to, or should I?
Yeah, if you have them in front of you, I can start looking at them now. Did you have one that you want to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, Sayed Heather Ali asked, we were putting pictures on LinkedIn. What's the significance of adding a picture on your resume? Is that needed?
So that's a really good question. Pat on the back for that question. Only person who is going to have a picture on their resume is somebody who works in marketing. Nobody else needs to have a picture on their resume. XXX. Absolutely not. You're going to create a bias. We get your resume. Okay. We don't need all that. I mean, yes, you already have your LinkedIn there. We're going to type in your LinkedIn anyway. Your picture's right there. So it really is a moot point. And also it can mess up ATS because you're adding that graphic in there. So we really don't want to do that. Good question.
There's one more in here. how many pages max on resume? I know a common one that people think about a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. I can see your face. So this is a great question as well. So if we're saying 500 to 700 words on a resume, my own resume is 2 pages, and that's absolutely fine. Nobody can have a 1-page resume. It's impossible. No. You can have a 2-page resume, that's fine, but that's the maximum. We're limiting it to 2 pages.
Yep, agreed. Another question here, and I know you talked a little bit about this when you were talking about how to use the job description and use some of the common words and use that terminology in your resume. What keywords to use in your resume to stick out from the crowd? Anything else to elaborate there?
So keywords really go by the job description. So if you're trying to stand out, you want to use as many of those words as possible. And what I've seen before, which I don't recommend because HR sees this right away, people have put all of the basically words from the job description below their resume in white. I throw those out immediately. ATS scans it immediately and tosses it out. So definitely don't do that. do not. And, you know, and to that end, I know that Amir and I were talking about ChatGPT and how people are using it actually to create resumes. That's another one of those things that HR is already ahead of. We can tell the resumes that are made with ChatGPT, and a lot of those are actually getting thrown out by the applicant tracking system automatically. So it really is not useful to use something like that in this case. I don't know for other things if that's helpful, but in a resume, you definitely don't want to do that.
Super helpful and very relevant to kind of what's going on and how the tech is being used. Another question in here, how can I write an effective CV without any work experience or to address any gaps in my work experience?
So gaps are not looked at the way that they used to be, you know, even for us, a deal 10 years ago, right? That's when we started working. In those days, people would see gaps and be like, oh God, this person hasn't worked for 4 years. What are they doing? Nowadays, gaps are looked at in a different way in that, you know, if you, let's say, for example, you took family time off or you took time to travel or something like that. I never recommend saying I took time to travel, but if you took personal time, fine, put that on there. Say, you know, personal leave of absence. You know, it really is just one sentence to say all of that in there. And it doesn't look negatively upon you anymore. It was scrutinized, yes, 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago. But after all this happened, COVID and all these things, people need mental health breaks, and HR understands that. So it really doesn't come off as negative in terms of your experience. And if you don't have experience, how to make it look like you do. If you went to college for something and that is where you gained your experience, talk about those classes. If those classes are helping you align with those keywords, put some of that in there. That's what we want to see.
That's great. This next one, I know we talked a little bit about summary sections, both on the resume as well as the LinkedIn. Adding summary to the resume, does that make your resume too long, especially if you have 7 to 10 years of work experience? Doesn't the cover letter does the job that the summary would do?
Pat on the back for the person who asked this question. Cover letters, unless you are working for the government or you're working as a doctor, no one's reading that cover letter. I'm going to throw it away. In my 10 years of working in HR, I've never read one. Never. And they do attach them. Oh, of course. People attach their summary. They attach their cover letter and their resume. And I go and just read the problem is HR doesn't have that much time to read all of it, right? We have a very limited amount of time. We want to get through as many resumes as possible. So having that summary section with 2 to 3 sentences is a very abridged version of that cover letter. And it's not a separate page. It's right there.
Yeah, it's what's super helpful for me is to get behind the curtain and actually look at the process you're describing, because you're absolutely right. Like HR departments and hiring managers have limited resources.
Yeah.
So if everybody sat down and started reviewing every single, like there is a process and they have to move fast. So I can imagine how sometimes cover letter takes the backseat and people focus more on the resume because you have limited sources and you're trying to move fast. So that's super helpful context. This next one is pretty interesting. When it comes to
Wait,
link,
1 second. I just want to answer this question. If it does require it, then that's a different case. But most places, if you can skip it or it says not required or optional, skip it.
Yeah. This next one, when it comes to LinkedIn, many times you get random connection requests from people you might not know. What would you say is more important, quality of connections or quantity of connections, or I guess both? But yes.
I mean, that's a good question. A lot of random people connect with me too. And if I'm somebody new who's starting out and I don't have a lot of connections, okay, yeah, I'm gonna add, whatever person. And I mean, and think about the type of role that you're doing as well, right? If I'm an HR person and people want to connect with me, it's a different caliber. But if people are connecting with you that are like, I don't know, not of the same, yeah, I mean, you want quality candidates as well. So it really is double-edged on that. You do want people and random people, and that's fine. I have a ton of random contacts that have added me, a friend through a friend through a friend, and that's fine. And then there are quality connections that are, oh, I'm a project manager, or I'm doing UX design, but I'm interested in this. Maybe that person wants to make a connection with you because they're interested in what you're doing. So there's also that.
And this next one, for the skills section, should one differentiate between technology related skills versus soft skills? How should the soft skills be addressed in the resume?
So, I mean, obviously you do want to say soft skills, and it comes back to those accomplishment-based bullets that we're talking about. So let's say, for example, one of the soft skills is collaboration. You're going to use that first word that you're using should be an action verb. Collaborated with team to ensure projects were met on time, resulting in a 10% increase in new projects annually. So you're putting it within that bullet, that accomplishment-based bullet that you're talking about.
Should we have the paid subscription for LinkedIn? How do you think that helps?
Well, again, it depends on what you will do with it. I'll say that. There are people that have this service and then they do nothing with it. For you, it's useless. No. If you are going to reach out to people and connect with people and in-message people to connect with jobs, or then yes, it's worth it for you, because there's a limited amount of, I think 10 messages you can do or whatever through for the day, or somebody that you're not connected to. But if you have their service, then you can see who's viewed your profile. You can message that person directly. But if you're not going to do all of those things, I don't think it's worth it. You need to, it's about knowing yourself and what you're going to do with it.
Yep. No, it's super helpful. Next one, do interviewers go through LinkedIn following? I'm assuming that means like who we're following. Are you judged based off of that in any way?
Like who you're following on LinkedIn?
I think so. Yeah, I think let's assume that's what, yeah.
Well, I'll say this. I don't post anything political. I don't post anything that could be looked at as, oh, she's saying this and this. I don't get into controversial things and post those kind of things on LinkedIn, because it could go one of two ways, right? And I don't want a bias before I even talk to anybody. So I'm very careful about what I post on there. There are people that, think that it's Facebook and they'll post crazy stuff on there. And these are people that, even I know, and I'm like, you need to take that down. Like, that is not okay. So you really have to be careful as what are you being looked at? What is somebody going to think about me when I post this? Those are the thoughts that really should go through your head before you post something, because once it's out there, it's out there. People have read it. People will screenshot it, you know? So is this something that I'm okay with being on there? And in terms of, are you judged by that? If you're posting political stuff, yeah, you're judged by that. Sure. In terms of following, who you're following, not really, I wouldn't say.
Do the resume tips apply for design careers as well? Most UX jobs require and focus more on portfolio type of building, and uniquely designed resumes versus focusing on parsing information from the resume. So any thoughts on that one?
UX resumes will still go through the applicant tracking system. But what happens is with these positions, and I do have a couple of clients that had the same situation. They will ask you for your portfolio, and you can have that link of your portfolio at the top of your resume. So that is fine. You can do that, and then that link will go in there, and then they can see that portfolio and see, you know, some of your design work, rather than, you know, going through the applicant tracking system. If your resume is designed fancily, it won't parse.
Lot of great questions. We'll do a couple more. One, I guess I'll insert from my end. When you think about LinkedIn, and especially when you're active in the job market and reaching out to people and building connections, what's the right balance of, you know, direct mail versus sending people random connection requests? Does it come off as if, you know, you're, you know, stockish, or just maybe speak a little bit about, you know, the healthy kind of hygiene when it comes to reaching out to people in LinkedIn?
Adil, this is a very goofy question and very funny, but yes, I'm going to answer this question for you.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is any level of stalking that is inappropriate in my eyes. Okay, so there are people who have stalked me many times when I was in HR, and it's fine. I expect it, and I don't take it in a bad view. I just take it as you're driven. So what's the worst that's going to happen? Someone's going to not connect with you? Fine. What's the worst that's going to happen? Somebody's going to say, oh, don't contact me? Okay, great. Thanks. I won't. You know, like, you have to be okay with the no, like, or I don't want to connect with you. That's fine. But, you know, in the off chance that they do want to connect with you and they do say, oh yeah, hey, actually, we do have that position open and you seem like a great fit, it works in your favor. So it really is, you know, a 50-50 shot. Will you come off as a stalker? Maybe. Will they connect with you? Maybe. So it really is up to you if you want to take that chance.
And I will also add it also depends on the value of your reach, like your the quality of your reach out, right? Like, was it without contact? Was it, you know, you reached out, you had a little, like, you know, pitch on yourself and, you know, kind of what excites you? I think the way you reach out and the quality of your reach out can go a long way.
Absolutely.
And I definitely look at that when people reach out, and definitely biased towards more people that are that have that type of stuff.
Of course. Yeah,
I'll
you
add
will
something
definitely
here
respond to
too.
that.
This is something from my personal experience, that if we are reaching out and you reach out the right way, I have had successes. I've had people that I didn't know actually appreciated it. And, you know, at times it was someone at a position that, you know, I was like, this is a great position. How did you make it there? What would it take for someone to be at the position that you are at? Trust me, people oftentimes actually appreciate someone reaching out and someone asking for, hey, how did you do this? Or what steps do you recommend that someone can take to get there? I think there's a tremendous amount of value in, you know, being in that rumble stage, or being able to challenge yourself, overcome the obstacles that your mind puts in front of you, from being able to grow and be at your full potential.
You're 100% right. Sometimes we're our own hindrance, in that we don't want to, you know, oh, what will this person think? And it goes back to, like, you know, what we grew up learning, log kya kahenge. right? We're worried about that. And I think the time for that is over, because everybody else is moving forward. And because they're taking those risks and because they're doing these things, they're excelling really quickly. Why not us? We need to throw this mindset out of our heads and be like, oh, well, I don't know. Stop second guessing yourself. Trust your gut. If your gut says, I want to go ahead and do this, do it. Don't second guess yourself. Go with that instinctual feeling that you have. And it will take you a long way. Just that confidence that you have in yourself. We can smell it. We can see it.
Awesome.
Just one more point I want to add that is probably worth mentioning. I know that Sister Tazeen, you had actually mentioned it to me too before. Something that I've been practicing on LinkedIn. You can find and follow different hashtags. You can find and join different groups. It's all about expanding your personal brand and making sure that more people that you are connecting to, more groups you are joining, more hashtags you're following. It's putting your profile out there, and you are becoming a second connection or something common between you and a potential hiring manager or a recruiter, and the better probability you are going to have to take your next steps towards your career growth, which is essentially
100%.
what we are talking about.
100%.
Okay, with that, Abir, anything else on your mind? Any other questions that we want to address?
No, I think we're good. It's a great session.
So, Abir, we did want to say the documents that we're going to be putting in the link, so people can have something to walk away with this, because I always like
Adil, can you bring it up?
I love to give people homework. So this is your homework. And some documents that you can reference, just in case you're like, hey, I don't know what this is about. So I did put 10 tips for picking a LinkedIn profile on there. And then I did make an ultimate job search guide as well. And then in terms of career development plan and where we're trying to go and all of that, there is a career development plan on there and a SMART goals guide on how to create those plans and what we're really looking to put in that section. So everybody should definitely check it out, because these are great tools.
Yeah, these are great resources that you have provided, Sister Tazeen. Really thankful for you. Adil, if you have an opportunity to share your screen and just quickly show our audience and everyone that's going to be watching this even after the fact, that you can get to IEC Husaini's website, and right on the website there is a link that's added right in the middle of the page, as you can see. Once you go and click on it, it's going to launch and bring up the folder that's been created, where these really valuable documents have been dropped. So, as Sister Tazeen said, some homework items. Make sure that this is not a session that you just sat in and you're not going to do something after the fact. I think this was the first step. There are a few other steps that we would love for our community members to take and circle back with questions, because I think that's when this is really going to come to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, create a development plan for yourself. Obviously, it doesn't have to be 100%, I'm going to stick just to this. But, think about your long-term goals. Think about your short-term within 1 year. And then, your 3 to 5 years. What does that look like for you? And this is a way to put everything down on paper and really brainstorm where you see yourself. Maybe you're not happy in your position now, but in the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see yourself and how are you going to get there? What are those steps that you're going to take to make yourself more marketable for a position that's 2-3 steps down the line?
Sister Tazeen, this is Mohammed Batala. Great session. If you could squeeze this question. I know you did talk about LinkedIn profile. with respect to the profile, what weightage does volunteer work has or does not?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
So should we include volunteer work in the LinkedIn profile, or?
Oh yeah, in the LinkedIn profile, you can definitely add that volunteer section. I did touch upon it before. On your resume, it doesn't really parse through. That's not a section that's on the resume, but in your LinkedIn, yeah, you can definitely add where you volunteer and different things different organizations that you're part of. Absolutely.
Great. I think it speaks to a lot of the soft skills, giving back,
Definitely.
Thank you. Great session.
Thank you.
All right, Adil.
All
I
right,
think
with that,
we're almost at time.
Yeah, with that, I just want to take time to thank you, Tazeen, for joining us. I personally learned a lot today, and there's a lot of good resource that you're leaving behind for folks to access to the homepage. So thank you again, and appreciate you spending time with us on this topic.
Of course, I'm happy to help our community, and this is the best way that we're going to be moving forward. And this is as we're making connections with each other, maybe we haven't met in person. That's okay. A friend of a friend, we got to make these connections, and this is how we will excel ourselves forward as a community. And with that, I'll definitely say that anybody who wants to use any of the services that I've offered, or I do have a website which is on the flyer there. I'll offer 20% off, $20 off any service that you want to use. So if that's something that you want to do, then definitely reach out to me, and anybody can connect with me on LinkedIn. I won't be like Adil. I will connect with you.
Thank you, Sister Tazeen. Really, on behalf of IEC Husaini, the entire community, everybody that's joined, everybody is full of words. I think this was a great session. We could probably keep going for even an hour or more to talk about this, but really, I think there's enough. There's great amount of information, great resources that's been shared, great thoughts, great questions. I think audience that's
questions.
Present today, this was amazing. We were prepared for some of our own questions, but trust me, I think you all asked all of those great questions. But next steps, you all are going to do something with optimizing your profile, creating a plan, and making sure that we help each other, we work as a community, we volunteer, whether it's for IEC or for any organization, that doesn't matter. But making sure that we are giving back, just like how you did, Sister Tazeen. I really truly appreciate, and
of course.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Khud Hafiz.
Khud Hafiz.
Thank you.